Let me tell you something most men don't realize until it's too late. A woman doesn't pull away because you weren't good enough. She pulls away because you started abandoning yourself. You stopped enforcing your standards. You stopped protecting your time. You stopped choosing your purpose. And somewhere along the way, without even noticing, you gave her access to a version of you she hadn't earned. Here's the truth. A woman doesn't lose interest randomly. She loses interest the moment she senses you're more invested in her than you are in your mission, your discipline, and your identity as a man. Today, I'm giving you the 10 laws. 10 things you must never do for a woman if you want to keep your self-respect, your power, and your masculine center. Not because she's the enemy, but because the fastest way to destroy attraction is to betray yourself. Stay with me. By the end of this video, you'll see exactly where men lose their value and how you can rebuild yours bigger, stronger, and untouchable. There is a law that governs every relationship, every interaction, every moment between a man and a woman, a law so universal that it operates. Whether you know it or not, respect is earned through behavior and lost through access. Most men never learn this. They give too much access too fast. They reveal too much too early. They offer commitment before she's offered consistency. They open their heart before she's shown her character. And they confuse connection with qualification. But women don't evaluate you through what you say. They evaluate you through what you allow. They test through action, never words. A woman doesn't lose respect because you weren't handsome enough, rich enough, tall enough, or smooth enough. She loses respect when she feels you've given her a position in your life she never earned. And the tragedy: most men hand that position over willingly. The hidden truth: women read behavior, not promises. Let's start with the part men struggle with most. A woman doesn't pull away because you were too strong. She pulls away because you were too available. Not physically, emotionally. Women are wired to test the structure of a man, not consciously, instinctively. They want to know, can he hold himself together under pressure? Does he bend when I push? Does he need my validation more than he needs his own direction? Will he abandon his standards just to keep the peace? These questions aren't asked verbally. They are asked through her actions, through inconsistency, through emotional shifts, through small withdrawals of affection. And your reaction tells her everything. If she pulls back and you chase, she learns you value her more than your time. If she disrespects you and you tolerate it, she learns your boundaries are flexible. If she tests you and you collapse, she learns she can control the dynamic. If she becomes distant and you panic, she learns your emotions depend on her presence. Women aren't looking for perfection. They are looking for centeredness. The man who remains grounded, the man who doesn't react emotionally to her fluctuations, the man who has direction with or without her. This is the man she respects. Micro story: how a man loses her without having done anything wrong. Let me tell you a story I've seen 1,000 times. He meets a woman he truly likes. She's warm, playful, feminine. She gives him signals he hasn't felt in years. And he feels that spark, that rare connection. So he does what every untrained man does. He removes the process. He gives the prize up front. He cancels plans just to see her. He responds instantly. He starts calling her every night. He reveals vulnerability before trust exists. And he gives her the emotional security she hasn't yet earned. To him, he's being genuine, loving, and committed. To her, something feels off. She starts replying slower. She reschedules. She becomes busy. She suddenly needs space. He doesn't understand why. Nothing bad happened. No argument. No conflict. No betrayal. But something invisible shifted, and it shifted because he treated her like a priority before she proved she was worthy of that spot. She didn't lose interest. She lost respect. And once respect goes, everything else follows. The law access must always be earned. There is a masculine principle most men never hear. Access is your power. Access is your currency. Access is your filter. Women will never value anything given freely. Not because they're selfish, because humans don't respect what's too easy. When you give commitment, time, energy, emotional support, financial investment, or intimacy too early, you are breaking the first rule of masculine value. A woman must qualify for deeper access to your life. Not through tests, not through manipulation, but through alignment, consistency, respect, effort, character, emotional maturity, integrity, reciprocity. When a woman earns access, she treasures it. When you hand it over instantly, she questions it. Respect comes from what you withhold, not what you give. Why men lose value when they give too much too soon. Here is the paradox every man must understand. Women only trust the man who trusts himself more than he trusts her. When you make her the center of your world too early, she feels responsible for your emotional stability, and that kills attraction. When you show her you're afraid of losing her, she stops being afraid of losing you. When you prioritize her above your mission, she starts questioning your long-term capacity. The moment you place a woman above your own self-respect, she instinctively lowers your value, not because she wants to, but because that is how feminine psychology works. A woman wants to step into your life, not become your life. The real reason women respect some men immediately. Respect isn't about muscles, height, money, or status. It's about behavioral gravity. The man who commands respect is the one who says no calmly, doesn't chase approval, doesn't overshare, moves with purpose, protects his time, protects his vision, doesn't need constant reassurance, sets boundaries without emotion, doesn't break his principles for affection, never abandons himself to keep someone else. This kind of man is impossible to replace. He is centered, grounded, and self-led. Women don't respect him because he's perfect. They respect him because he doesn't negotiate his identity. He is not swayed by emotion. He does not fold under pressure. He does not break his structure for temporary intimacy. He is a man who remains himself, even when feelings are involved. That is the masculine foundation. Every woman responds to whether she admits it or not. Respect is not given. It is preserved. This chapter sets the foundation for the entire video. Men don't lose women. They lose themselves. And once they lose themselves, women lose respect. A woman responds to structure, to boundaries, to identity, to standards. When you protect these things, you protect the relationship. When you abandon them, you don't lose her. You simply become the version of yourself she cannot admire. And everything that follows in this video, the 10 psychological violations, is built on this universal law. A man must never give more than she has earned, because the moment he does, he begins his own replacement. A woman doesn't stop respecting a man because he's unattractive, or not rich enough, or not charming enough. She stops respecting him because he commits psychological violations, small cracks in his masculine frame that slowly collapse everything he used to be. These 10 mistakes aren't random. They are the exact behaviors that make a woman wake up one day and think, I can do better. Let's break them down one by one. 1. Violating your self-respect, forgiving cheating twice. A betrayal is not an accident. It's a decision. And when you rush to forgive her because you're scared to lose her, you don't realize what she actually sees. His dignity is negotiable. His standards are optional. You think you're showing love. She thinks you're showing weakness. A woman may cry, apologize, break down emotionally, but none of that erases the truth. The moment you stay after betrayal, you redefine yourself in her eyes. A man can be heartbroken, but a man must never be spineless. 2. Violating your independence. Asking for permission to live your life. There's a difference between informing a woman and seeking approval from her. When you hesitate and ask, is it okay if I go? What do you think I should do? Should I say yes to this opportunity? She doesn't think, wow, is so considerate. She thinks, why can't he make a decision without me? Women don't want to lead. They only lead when you refuse to. And the moment she becomes the authority in your life, attraction evaporates. 3. Violating your finances, buying validation. A man who spends money recklessly to get attention isn't generous. He's insecure. Overspending doesn't signal abundance. It signals emptiness. A woman doesn't think he treats me so well. She thinks he needs to perform to feel worthy. And the ugly truth, if she stays for the money, she'll leave for more money. Spending to impress is not attraction. It's self-betrayal wrapped in a receipt. 4. Violating your leadership. Letting her manage you. Women don't micromanage because they love control. They micromanage because you left a leadership vacuum. When you let her speak for you, decide for you, direct your schedule, handle your conflicts, manage your entire life, she stops seeing you as a man who leads and starts seeing you as a man who needs to be led. A woman cannot be attracted to someone she has to parent. 5. Violating honesty, lying to avoid conflict. A woman always feels the truth, even when she can't articulate it. When you lie to keep peace, what she hears is, he's scared of upsetting me. That's not compassion. That's fear. And a man who fears a woman's emotions can never earn her respect. Honesty doesn't require brutality. It requires backbone. Tell the truth, calmly, never emotionally. A woman doesn't always like honesty in the moment, but she anchors herself to men who consistently deliver it. 6. Violating boundaries. Allowing girls' nights with no structure. Independence is healthy. Chaos is not. A woman can have her own life. She should date, But pretending every environment is harmless is naive. If her circle is wild, reckless, addicted to male validation, you'd be foolish not to set boundaries. You're not controlling her. You're protecting the relationship. A woman doesn't respect a man who allows anything. She respects the man who stands for something. If she pushes back against any boundary at all, what she wants isn't partnership. It's freedom with zero accountability. 7. Violating your purpose. Sacrificing your mission for love. There is nothing more unattractive to a woman than a man who abandons his purpose because he fell in love. Love does not require the death of your ambition. When you put her above your mission, she doesn't feel chosen. She feels responsible for your emptiness. A woman may enjoy being prioritized, but she loses respect the moment she outranks your direction. A man without a mission becomes clingy, emotional, unstable, and eventually disposable. 8. Violating your commitments, canceling your life for her feelings. Women, don't test your emotions. They test your steadiness. When you drop everything, cancel plans, skip responsibilities, abandon priorities, just because she's upset or bored, you teach her one thing: your world depends on her emotions. Not attractive, not admirable, not masculine. A man who keeps his commitments earns respect from everyone, including her. 9. Violating your individuality, pretending to like what she likes. A man becomes replaceable the moment he stops being himself. If you shape your personality around her interests, her hobbies, her preferences, her identity, you slowly disappear into her world. And no woman wants a reflection of herself. Attraction thrives on polarity. She wants a man with his own passions, his own life, his own world. Not a fan, not a copy, not a shadow. 10. Violating irreversible responsibility, signing paternity blindly. This is the mistake that ruins entire lifetimes. Never under any pressure sign something that binds your life without clarity. Doubt is not disrespect. Doubt is due diligence. Men get manipulated by guilt, by tears, by social pressure. But 5 minutes of discomfort is nothing compared to 18 years of responsibility for a child that may not be yours. A man who verifies is not paranoid. He is responsible. Irréversible décisions require truth, not emotion. Every violation on this list points to one thing: self-abandonment disguised as love. When you forgive the unforgivable, hide the truth, shrink your ambition, sacrifice your identity, collapse your boundaries, you're not loving her. You're abandoning you. And a woman cannot respect a man who betrays himself. A relationship doesn't fail the moment she walks away. It fails the moment you walked away from your own standards. The truth men were never taught, and women will never say out loud. Most men operate under a dangerous myth that women want softness, constant reassurance, unlimited availability, and emotional surrender. They don't. A woman is not drawn to a man who gives her everything. She's drawn to a man who can hold himself together while she feels everything. There is a fundamental psychological law women live by, whether consciously or subconsciously. A woman does not want a man who dissolves into her. She wants a man who stands unshakable beside her. Let's break down how feminine psychology actually works and why so many men lose attraction without ever understanding what happened. 1. Women test through behavior, not words. A man listens to what she says. A woman watches what you do. When a woman creates emotional waves, a sudden mood swing, a cold shift, a delayed reply, a moment of distance, she isn't asking you to chase, panic, or explain yourself. She's testing one thing: can he stay grounded while I'm stormy? Feminine energy is movement. Masculine energy is direction. If you let her emotional rhythm dictate your stability, she stops seeing you as the anchor and starts seeing you as another thing she has to manage. That's when respect dies. 2. Women don't want a man who's soft. They want a man who's steady. There's a difference between kindness and softness. A massive difference. Softness is emotional surrender, apologizing, seeking approval, losing your frame, explaining, needing reassurance. Being afraid of upsetting her. Kindness is strength under control, warm but not weak, calm but not passive, caring but not needy, compassionate but not collapsible. A woman doesn't want a man without emotion. She wants a man who is bigger than his emotions. Because in her psychology, a man who collapses under pressure cannot protect her from the world or from herself. 3. Women don't want everything. They want what you make them earn. The paradox of female attraction: the more easily she gets your attention, the less valuable it feels. Women don't consciously think this, but they feel it. Deeply. Access, affection, time, effort, emotional intimacy, commitment. These things must be calibrated, not withheld, not weaponized, just earned. When a man gives too much too soon, she doesn't feel lucky. She feels suspicious. Why? Because in the female subconscious, if he gives this much without knowing me, he must give this easily to everyone. And nothing kills attraction faster than feeling like she's not special. 4. Women don't want control. They want certainty. Women only try to control a man when they no longer trust his direction. This is where men get confused. They assume she wants to take charge. No. She wants to feel safe. She wants to feel like your world is under control and that you are under control. When she senses weakness, indecision, hesitation, or emotional volatility, she steps into the leadership vacuum you created. Not because she wants to, but because she feels she must. When a man reclaims direction with calm authority, she relaxes. Her feminine energy softens. Her defenses drop. Feminine energy blooms only in the presence of masculine certainty. 5. Women respond to strength. Not dominance. Strength is internal. Dominance is external. Strength is calm, grounded, confident. Dominance is aggressive, reactive, insecure. Women reject dominance and melt for strength. A strong man does not need to raise his voice. He does not need to demand respect. He does not need to force compliance. His presence communicates everything. When she feels his stability, his self-control, his quiet certainty, her feminine instincts activate. She feels safe. She feels seen. She feels led. She feels a polarity that pulls her toward him without words. Not because he's perfect, but because he's rooted. 6. Women respond to mystery, not secrecy. Men confuse these two all the time. Mystery is self-possession. Secrecy is avoidance. Mystery is, I have a life. A mission. A world I'm building, and I allow you into it slowly. Secrecy is, I'm hiding something. Mystery is masculine. Secrecy is insecure. A woman is drawn to a man with layers, a man she uncovers over time, a man whose depth reveals itself gradually, a man with emotional discipline and a rich internal world. Mystery creates désir. Secrecy destroys trust. 7. Women respond to men who don't over-invest. Emotionally, when a man invests too quickly, she feels pressure instead of attraction. A woman's attraction grows like a fire slowly, with oxygen and space. A man's attraction often hits instantly, burning too fast, too hot, too soon. The masculine mistake. He gives commitment before she gives respect. He gives intimacy before she gives loyalty. He gives devotion before she gives consistency. Women don't want a man who falls first. They want a man who chooses with clarity, not desperation. Women want your strength more than your heart. This is the part most men misunderstand. A woman doesn't fall in love with a man because he gives her everything. She falls in love because he gives her something she cannot get anywhere else. A masculine presence she can trust. A stable mind she can rest inside. A calm strength that doesn't break under pressure. That is what she responds to. That is what she respects. That is what she follows. If you want to understand why some men command a woman's respect effortlessly while others lose it without ever noticing, you have to understand one thing. Masculinity is not maintained through charm, effort, or sacrifice. It is held through structure. A Stoic man doesn't keep his value by trying harder. He keeps his value because he lives according to an internal framework, an unshakable architecture that grounds him no matter who stands beside him, challenges him, or walks away from him. A woman doesn't respect you because you love her deeply. She respects you because you love yourself enough to stay loyal to your standards. She doesn't trust you because you make her happy. She trusts you because you are stable, even when she's not. This is the quiet, magnetic, commanding energy of a man who operates from 4 pillars: direction, identity, boundaries, and emotional neutrality. Every part of masculine power begins here. Direction is the first pillar, and it might be the most misunderstood. Most men believe women test their affection. They don't. Women test your trajectory. She wants to know if your life still moves forward when she becomes unpredictable, moody, distant, or emotional. She wants to know whether your mission holds more weight than momentary feelings. A man with direction is not swayed by her storms. He doesn't rearrange his life because her emotions fluctuate. He doesn't pause his progress to chase validation. His path is non-negotiable. And when she sees that, she relaxes into her femininity because she can finally trust the gravity of his presence. A man without direction becomes a shadow, reactive, needy, emotionally dependent. But a man with direction becomes a force. The second pillar is identity. not the identity the world gives you, but the identity you refuse to surrender. A man loses himself long before he loses a woman. He loses himself the moment he starts shrinking his edges to avoid conflict, pretending to like what she likes to feel accepted, altering his personality to maintain harmony, or bending his values because he fears disappointing her. When you do that, you don't gain closeness, you lose respect. A woman might enjoy the comfort at first, but eventually she feels what every woman feels when a man dissolves into her emptiness. She cannot admire a man who clones her interests, mirrors her opinions, or trades authenticity for approval. Identity is the quiet power of being rooted in who you are, even when she disagrees, even when she challenges you, even when conflict appears. Masculinity is not about being liked, it's about being anchored. Boundaries are the third pillar, and this is where most men destroy themselves, not because they are too soft, but because they violate themselves in the name of love. A boundary is not about controlling her behavior, it is about protecting your value. And every time you break one of your own standards, your stock drops in her mind. This is where the 10 mistakes become the 10 masculine laws. A Stoic man does not forgive betrayal twice. Because dignity is not negotiable, he does not ask for permission to live his life. Because leadership requires initiative, he does not buy validation with gifts, dates, or financial performances. Because true masculine value is self-generated, he does not allow himself to be micromanaged or supervised. Because he is the director of his own world, he does not lie to avoid conflict. Because truth is the backbone of masculinity, he does not pretend that reckless environments are harmless. Because naivety is the death of relationships, he does not sacrifice his mission for romance. Because his purpose is the highest order in his life, he does not cancel his commitments to stabilize her emotions. Because his word defines him, he does not trade his individuality for compatibility. Because difference is what creates attraction, and he does not take on irreversible responsibility without certainty. Because his future is sacred. When a man lives by these laws, he becomes untouchable not because he is controlling, but because he is sovereign. And finally, the fourth pillar, emotional neutrality. This is the crown of mature masculinity. The world tells men to be emotionally expressive without ever teaching emotional discipline. But a Stoic man understands that emotional neutrality is not about being numb, it's about being unshakable. When conflict appears, he stays composed. When she is upset, he grounds the moment with his calmness. When life becomes chaotic, he becomes more focused, not more reactive. His tone stays even. His posture stays steady. His decision-making stays intact. This doesn't suppress emotions, it elevates them into clarity. A man who can remain neutral under pressure is a man who earns respect effortlessly. Women don't fall for men who react to their storms. They fall for men who become the eye of the storm still. Clear, steady, centered. These four pillars form the masculine framework. Direction gives you purpose. Identity gives you presence. Boundaries give you value. Emotional neutrality gives you power. Together, they create a man who is impossible to manipulate, impossible to disrespect, and impossible to replace, because masculinity is not a performance, it is a structure. And when a man builds this structure within himself, he stops chasing respect and starts commanding it without raising his voice, without forcing his authority, without proving anything. His life becomes the proof. This is how a Stoic man holds power, not through volume, but through architecture, not through control, but through self-control, not through dominance, but through discipline. And the man who lives by this framework doesn't fear losing women, because the only thing he refuses to lose is himself. Every man reaches a moment where he realizes he's been living below his own potential, not because a woman broke him, not because life was unfair, but because somewhere along the way, quietly, slowly, almost invisibly, he abandoned himself. Maybe it happened when he forgave something he should have walked away from. Maybe it happened when he reshaped his life to keep someone from leaving. Maybe it happened when he stopped chasing his mission and started chasing her mood. But the truth is this: a man doesn't lose his value in a single moment. He loses it through a series of small self-betrayals he convinces himself are harmless. And that's why rebuilding your value isn't about becoming someone new. It's about returning to the man you were always meant to be. This chapter is your reset, a step-by-step reconstruction of the masculine foundation women respect, men admire, and you can finally be proud of. Step 1. Cut the noise. Reclaim the silence. The first step in rebuilding a man is always subtraction, not addition. Your mind is exhausted, not because life is heavy, but because you're drowning in noise, opinions, expectations, notifications, emotional demands, digital distractions. A man cannot rise when he's overstimulated. He rises when he becomes intentional. So you begin with silence. Not passive silence, active silence. Turn off the external world long enough for you to hear your internal one. That's where the real reset begins. When a man sits with himself long enough, his truth starts to surface: what he wants, what he's been tolerating, and what he must walk away from. Great men don't avoid silence. They return to it. Step 2. Define non-negotiables. Weak men chase love. Strong men chase standards. If you don't know what you stand for, every woman, every situation, every relationship will pull you in a different direction. And here's the truth: a woman can sense instantly when a man hasn't decided who he is. So you define your non-negotiables, not what she can't do, but what you won't allow yourself to tolerate. Disrespect, broken trust, chaos, inconsistency, emotional manipulation, self-betrayal disguised as love. You write these down, because a man who writes his standards becomes a man who enforces them. When you have non-negotiables, you live as a man who chooses, not a man who gets chosen. Step 3. Rebuild your direction. Purpose is masculine oxygen. Without it, you suffocate. And when a man suffocates, he clings to a woman, to validation, to anything that makes him feel alive again. Your direction must return. Not a perfect plan, not a 5-year roadmap, just momentum. You ask yourself, what am I building? What am I becoming? What future am I creating that excites me more than being loved? Women don't respect the man who worships them. They respect the man who is so deeply rooted in his path that she wants to walk beside him, not become the path itself. Your direction doesn't need to be loud. It needs to be real. Step 4. Reclaim your boundaries. A man without boundaries becomes a resource, not a partner, a provider, not a leader, a placeholder, not a priority. Rebuilding your value means redrawing every line that life, others, or your own weakness has blurred. You stop explaining what you won't accept and start living it. You stop negotiating with disrespect and start walking away from it. You stop giving second chances to things that destroyed you the first time. You stop apologizing for needing space, peace, focus, or discipline. Boundaries are not about controlling her. They are about controlling the direction of your life. A man with boundaries becomes magnetic. A man without them becomes invisible. Step 5. Build emotional neutrality. The strongest men aren't emotionless. They're emotionally sovereign. They don't get pulled into chaos. They don't react to provocation. They don't crumble when someone withdraws affection. They don't let their entire identity shift because a woman is upset. Emotional neutrality is the ability to stay grounded while others fall apart. It's what makes a woman respect you more in conflict, trust you more in uncertainty, desire you more in intimacy. A woman feels safest next to a man who is safe within himself. You practice it daily. Calm voice, slow breath, composure first, reaction last. This is the moment your masculinity evolves from fragile to unshakable. Step 6. Return to self-respect. At the root of every destroyed relationship, every broken man, every lost identity, every collapse in attraction, there is always one cause: the moment he stopped respecting himself. So, your final step is the most important. You recommit to the man in the mirror. You promise him you will no longer lower your standards just to keep someone close. You will no longer betray your intuition to avoid loneliness. You will no longer settle for chaos when what you crave is peace. You will no longer abandon your mission to secure affection. You will no longer apologize for being masculine, directional, disciplined, grounded, because the moment a man returns to self-respect, everything else returns with it: clarity, confidence, attraction, direction, and most importantly, power. A man who respects himself becomes a man the world respects. A man who respects himself becomes a man a woman cannot replace. A man who respects himself becomes a man he can finally follow. And this is what rebuilding your value really is: a return to self. The strongest, most aligned, most grounded version of you, the one you abandoned, but never lost. Now you rise again. Most men watch a video like this, nod along, feel the truth, punch them in the chest, and then go right back to the same habits that broke them in the first place. But not you. Because if you've made it to this point, I know something about you. You're done living as the watered-down version of yourself. You're done giving more than you receive. You're done carrying relationships that drain you. You're done confusing sacrifice with strength. You're done being the man who abandons himself in the name of love. So let me leave you with a reality. Most men spend their entire lives trying to avoid. A woman can only respect the man who respects himself first. Boundaries don't limit love. They protect it. The moment you stop negotiating your worth, everything in your life recalibrates. And here's the truth the world refuses to tell you. You don't need to shout to be powerful. You don't need to chase to be wanted. You don't need to beg to be chosen. You don't need to sacrifice your identity so someone else can feel comfortable. Masculine strength is built in silence, in decision, in standards, in the lines you refuse to cross, even when you're lonely, tempted, or afraid. So before you click away, I want you to do one thing for yourself. Take a breath. Look at your life. Find the one place where you've been shrinking and draw your line. Calmly, quietly, without apology. Because the moment you enforce that single standard, you begin rebuilding every part of you that life, heartbreak, or weakness ever tried to break. Choose these standards over chaos. Choose self-respect over fear. Choose yourself before you choose anyone else. And if this video hit you deeper than you expected, if it woke something up in you, if it made you realize you're capable of becoming far more powerful than you've been acting, then don't just leave. Take the next step. Subscribe. Join this brotherhood. Comment below. I choose respect over weakness. Your transformation doesn't start tomorrow. It starts right now, with one decision, one standard, one moment where you finally say, "This is who I am, and this is the line." Welcome to the next chapter of your life.